I'm very audible. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So, right, so we're going to be trying to manage the whole process from inspections to allocations. And in my experience, most of us get in a lot of trouble because we assume that the conversation should start when they come for inspection, but there's actually a way that you can set the tone for a successful inspection. So you should not limit yourself to, you know, waiting until the inspection kicks off before you now start prepping the customer and prepping yourself for the occasion. So there should be conversations that happen way before the inspection takes place. For example, one of my team members called me over the weekend and said, look, she's probably on this call. I have a client that's coming in from Edo State. He's coming to Ibadan and he's coming for a wedding. He doesn't usually stay in Ibadan. When should I reach out to him? He's coming at the end of the month. When should I reach out to him to remind him of the fact that when he comes there, I'm still going for the inspection? And should I just wait till he gets here to book an inspection? I said, no. Like, what you should be doing is to be planting seeds in the mind of the person before they actually come. So what happens is that when you plant the seeds, when the person comes for inspection, there are already existing conversations that you can pick up from. So, for example, every single day, you can reach out to them and say, oh, I was just thinking about the inspection that we're going to be having in about 2 weeks. I drove by a landmark today, and when you come, I would like you to even see this place, to see these projects around the property before we even go for the property itself. So what that does is that it preps the person's mind for what they are going to expect. And when they come, they expect to see the things that you've spoken about, which in turn like increases like your credibility, right? Because I mean, you spoke of these things, and these things are exactly how you said they were going to be. So we're talking about how to set the tone for an inspection before we now go ahead to what to actually do when you are on an inspection with a client. Now, so the first thing we're going to be talking about is setting the tone for inspections. And the first thing you want to do is to start before they even arrive, right? So as I said earlier, prep the client, prep the lead before they come. Don't wait until they come before you now start thinking about the inspection. Plant seeds in their mind, right? If you go for an inspection, send them videos, show them landmarks, have existing conversations before they come for the inspection. So, for example, if construction is currently being done on a particular place, it is your responsibility to say, look, this is level of progress being done. By the time you come next week, we'll probably have done the roofing. By the time you come next week, you have done the gatehouse. By the time you come next week, you've done the fencing. So when they actually come, you guys have existing conversations to pick up from. Sometimes inspections are awkward and there's a lot of silence because we don't have existing conversations with people before they come for inspection. So your job is to start before they arrive, prep the client before they even show up for the inspection. Now, the second thing is to be in control from the moment they show up, right? And I've noticed this along with a lot of real estate agents. When they are on an inspection, they let the client have have authority over how the conversations are going, which is actually very bad. You don't want the client to put you in a box. You want to put the client in a box. And you can only do that by taking the lead, by asking the questions, right? Ensure that during an inspection, you speak less, but you ask more questions. You should be asking more questions from the client in order to, lead the conversation in the direction that you want the conversation to go in. So when you get to a site, you need to be asking questions about it. Oh, do you like what you see? Okay, do you have any questions about this property or this project? The places we went to before, do you think this place is far? Is this something that you'd like to be invest in? So you need to be asking questions, right? To frame the client, to prep the client. It is not the client's job to be asking you so many questions. It's your job to ask questions. You need to lead the conversation. So when you get to sites, when you get for an inspection, don't put yourself in a don't put yourself in a position where you are being led by the client. You need to take authority and take charge. When you get to site, make sure you do most of the question asking. Don't wait for people to be asking you questions. Lead the conversation in the direction that you want the conversation to go in. And before this call started, we're being told about how to be confident, right? You need to be confident enough in that process. You need to know that, look, this inspection, this is my area, this is my arena. You need to lead the conversation in the direction that you want the client to go in, not the other way around. Now, the third thing is to carry yourself professionally, right? Most of us, we go for inspections and we treat it with a lot of levity, and it's very, very bad because, as I always say, right, the real estate profession has been bastardized by a lot of people. For example, in advanced countries, before you can be a real estate agent, you need to get a license. It means that being a real estate agent is serious business abroad. You can't just wake up in the morning and say that, oh, I want to start selling real estate. There's a process to things. And I think the fact that it is so easy for people to get in the real estate space also now makes them treat it with levity. They don't think they are doing an actual job. Most of us just see it as a side hustle. In advanced countries, being a real estate agent is a full-time job. So my point is we need to also have a professional approach to how we carry ourselves, even as real estate agents. There's no reason why you should be going to site with a client and should be wearing slippers. There's no reason why you should be wearing shorts. You need to treat yourself like you're a professional so that it can reflect in the mind of the client that they are dealing with a credible and a professional person. So before the client comes for inspection, it's best to get there before them. Another thing you can also do is to dress professionally, right? I know that sometimes to get expensive to get outfits can be expensive, but even within your budget, you can still look sharp and crisp without having to break the bank. So look like a professional. Don't underdress. Don't dress like you're just trying to do something casual. Dress professionally. Trust me, it creates an impression in the client's mind about how they should be operating with you. So if you are going for an inspection, right, ensure that you carry yourself professionally. Now, the first thing is to frame the inspection as a decision moment, right? You could say something like, today is to help you decide if this is worth securing or not. So what you want to do before the inspection is to set the tone, right? Tell them what they are supposed to expect when they get on site, when they get on the project with you. So as I said earlier, it is very, very important. It is very, very important to, frame their minds about what they are supposed to expect when they get to site on inspection with you, right? Let them know that this is what they should look forward to. Let them know why the inspection is important. So if you are on the days leading up to when you take a client for an inspection, what you want to be doing is to be creating a picture in their mind. For example, one project I personally connect with, especially for people around me, they know is Olu Modern Market. I frequent that place once or twice a week. And what I try to do with most of my potential clients is that I try to create the picture in their mind, right? Like tomorrow when we go for inspection, this is exactly what you're going to see. About 3 weeks ago, this was our level of progress. As of today, this is our level of progress. As of next week, this is our level of progress. So even if they miss inspection this week, when they come next week, they know exactly what to expect when they get to site, right? So frame it as an important process in the client's mind. Let them know that, look, this place we are going tomorrow is a very important place, right? Especially as regards the investment that you want to make. I'm calling you to take you to this place because I know that when you come here, you have to make a decision. So let them know that coming for an inspection is an opportunity for them to make a decision. Let them know that coming for an inspection takes them one step closer to the investment that they want to make, right? So frame the inspection as a decisive moment in the client's mind. So the second subtopic for today is what to do during inspections, right? So when the inspection actually starts, what are you supposed to do? How are you supposed to approach it? Because most of us we don't have a structure as regards what we do when we get on site. But it's very important for you to know exactly what you're going to do before you get there. Most of us think, well, when I get to site, me and the client, we have a conversation, and then if they buy, they buy. If they don't buy, they don't buy. You don't need to gamble with the outcome of your inspections. What you want to do is to have like a proper structure, a proper process as regards how you approach inspections. Now, the first thing is to sell the future, not the present, right? So your job as a salesperson is to, as I say earlier, your job as a salesperson is to help people, right? And sometimes people cannot really see the vision yet. They might not really connect with the project yet. For example, if you take somebody to Oli Modern Market and New Garage today, of course, the person is not blind. They can say that they are constructing shop spaces, but it's your job to sell the future of that place, not how it looks today, but how it's going to look in the future, right? So your job is to sell the future, not the present. Let them know that, look, this is going to be a structured market environment. Let them know that there's going to be a lot of human traffic coming into this place. Let them know that once this place is fully functional, right, it's going to cost a fortune. Let them know that they are buying at below the market price. And when this place actually kicks off, almost immediately they are making a profit. So your job is to sell the future, not the present. Forget about what the project looks like. So it means that to properly communicate what the future of a place looks like, you also need to understand what it looks like. So it's your job as a salesperson to research, know exactly what you're talking about, know the product like the back of your hand, be able to paint a picture of 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now, right? So it's your job to sell the future and not the presence. Now, the second thing is to make it make financial sense, right? And this is part of another whole topic entirely about why people make decisions. So people usually make decisions because of two reasons, right? Emotional reasons and logical reasons. So the emotional reason is when you are trying to tell them that, look, you can look after your children if you invest in real estate, you can look after yourself in old age, you can provide for more people if you have more resources by investing in real estate. That's an emotional reason why people invest. But then there's a logical reason. Why does this make sense? Like, I'm about to put 5 million naira of my money into a market space that's never completed yet. How does this make sense? How does this make logical sense? Right? So, as we all know, the only model market is going to enable people get as high as 400% ROI. Like, if rent prices are like around 1 million naira, it means about 5 or 6 years you've recouped 100% of your capital. Like, these are the logical conversations you should be having around the project. Make it make logical sense, make it make financial sense. Outside of the fact that you're selling the future, as of today, how does this decision make sense? So it's your job as a salesperson to understand the product that you're even selling, understand the logical reason, outside of the emotional reason, outside of the future reason. Why does it make sense for me to take 5 million naira of my hard-earned money to put in a shop space that is not even completed, that is off plan? You are selling somebody a dream. And the truth is that if you're selling somebody a dream, it means that you're talking about the future. As of today, why does investing in this project, why does it make sense? So you need to also give people financial reasons, logical reasons as regards why they are investing in a project, right? Logical reasons about why they're investing in a project. So outside of selling them the future, you need to also make it make financial sense. Now, the third thing is to engage with questions. When you are on an inspection, as I always say, it makes a lot of sense to, ask more questions than you talk, right? The point of a conversation with a client is to get information. You don't get information by talking, you get information by listening. And somebody is not going to talk to you except you ask questions. So it's not really just about listening, it's about knowing the quality and the type of questions to ask. Most of us don't know how to ask questions that actually are engaging to people. Most of us don't know how to ask questions that uncover pain points. Most of us don't know how to engage clients properly. Your job as a salesperson is not to talk. Your job as a salesperson is to listen so that you can get information about the client that you can weaponize to sell to them. Right. So I know that most of us, we go through the brochure, we go through the FAQ, we've gone on inspections so many times. It seems we feel like we are very knowledgeable and we feel they need to share that knowledge with the clients. Trust me, your clients don't care about how much you know, except what you know benefits them. So your job as a salesperson is not to go on site, go for an inspection, and start, explaining to the client how knowledgeable you are about the project. The client doesn't care. So what you should be doing is to be asking questions as often as you can. Now, the fourth thing is to handle objections immediately, right? Handle objections immediately. When the client comes a a for an inspection, right? You'd notice that more often than not, they have objections, and sometimes they ask you. And I tell people that, look, objections are a good thing, right? It means that the client is having an internal conversation within themselves and they're trying to look for answers, right? When somebody has something in their mind that's conflicting or does not make sense, it means that, and they ask you about it, it means that they're actually having a review about what they are seeing, about what is going on. Now, there are only two reasons that a client is not going to object to what you say. The first reason is because they are never going to buy. Or the second reason is that they've already decided in their mind that they are going to buy. Right? So when somebody is quiet, sometimes it is not a good thing. You take a client for an inspection and they don't have anything to say. Sometimes it's because they formed an impression that, well, I'm not even going to buy, so let me never waste my time. So objections are important and they can come in different forms. They can come in the form of distance. Oh, this place is too far. They can come in the form of pricing. Right, this place is too expensive. They can come in the form of, oh, legitimacy, like, this project, how are we even sure that in about 3 or 5 years it will be here? They can come in different forms. So when you're on an inspection, don't allow objections to accumulate. Anytime you sense or you hear something that sounds like an objection, your job as a salesperson is to take care of that objection on the spot. Don't wait until later. If they say something that seems like if they object on price, they object on distance, don't let that conversation just slip away. Handle the objection as quickly as possible. Now, the fifth one is to get small agreements, right? To get small agreements. Now, what that practically means is that there's actually a psychological concept that if you can get somebody to say yes earlier in the conversation, there's actually a negotiation skill. If you can get someone to say yes earlier in the conversation, you can actually get them to say yes later in the conversation. So what that means is that you need to be asking questions that have a very that they are the obvious answers to that question is yes. For example, if you say something like, "Oh, do you like the level of progress that is going on here?" and the person says yes, right? Or do you see that what I told you about before we came to the inspection is actually happening? And the person says yes. So you're actually prepping their mind to be giving you positive responses. So understand that you need to get small agreements, small yeses from them, right? So ask questions that prompt them to actually say yes. Once you can get somebody to say yes earlier in the conversation, it is easier to get them to say yes later in the conversation. So get small agreements, get small yeses from them. The more yeses you can get at the beginning of the conversation, the easier it is for you to get other yeses, as the conversation actually goes by. So I'll just quickly go over the bullet points of what to do during inspections. I said you need to sell the future, not the present. You need to make it make financial sense, right? You need to engage with questions. You need to handle objections immediately. And you also need to get small agreements. Now, we're going to be moving ahead to another important part of the whole process, which is creating urgency, right? Creating urgency without pressure. Now, an important part of the sales process is how to properly, create urgency. And the truth is that most people know that they need to make certain decisions, but they are not in a rush to make those decisions. And the truth is that for you as a salesperson, you need to get your potential clients or your potential leads in a position where they want to make that decision as quickly as possible. But you also have to be very careful because people are very sensitive, especially when they want to make a buying decision. You don't want somebody to think that you are rushing them to make a decision. Then things go downhill from there. So if somebody wants to make a buying decision, they want to buy, but they don't want to look like you sold them something, right? They want that decision to be 100% their own idea. So your job as a salesperson is to carefully nudge somebody in the direction that you want them to go in. That's why you'd realize that if you send too many reminders or you call a client too much, you start to lose value. It's because you are forcing the client to make a decision that they are not sure that they want to make. You need to slowly and carefully know how to create urgency so that the client can come to a buying decision and they don't feel pressured, to make that decision. And the truth is that real estate is a high value investment, and the people that invest heavily in it, they're usually high value individuals, and these people don't like to be rushed. They like to make decisions based on their own timing, based on their own knowledge. When you try to force somebody to do something, it implies that you're trying to say that, look, you are not knowledgeable enough and I want to make this decision for you. Most times people feel threatened or they feel insulted by you forcing them or pushing them in the direction that they don't want to go in. So you need to understand how to create urgency without pressure. And very quickly be going over a couple of ways that you can go about it. Now, the first one is to tie urgency to real factors, right? Like the price change, the allocation, and the limited plots. So what you want to do to create proper urgency without looking like you're forcing the vibe is to tie that urgency to real factors. For example, you can say that, look, there's going to be a price change in a couple of days. That's why I'm reaching out. So if you wanted to make that decision, it would be a good idea to make that decision now. You could say that, oh, we're having an allocation in about 2 weeks. If you want to be part of this batch, it makes sense to probably get done with your payment today. So that way you're creating urgency in a way that benefits them. You are nudging them slowly to make that decision. You're keeping the door open. Look, you can decide not to make this payment today, but I think it's in your best interest to make it, right? So you're telling them that, look, this is the direction I want you to go in, but I'm not going to force you. I'm going to let you make that decision by yourself. And the reason why I want you to make that decision today is not because of me. It's because there's going to be a level of progress that you are not going to be a part of if you don't make that buying decision today. Now, the second thing is to position timing as an advantage, right? Position timing as an advantage. Now, I cannot stop talking about Holy modern market, but the truth is, I was still having a conversation with a client yesterday about how he was sure that he was going to make profit of this project. And I said, look, first things first, for starters, right? You are buying at a pre-launch price. What that means is that if you came to this project as of today, it means that you're already buying for a profit, because by the time this project is completed in about 2 months, even if you sell it for the market price at that time, which I'm sure will not be 5 million naira again, you're already making a profit, right? So you need to learn how to position timing as an advantage. The truth about real estate is that the early buyers are the highest benefactors, right? You need to understand that if you buy something today, it will not be the same price as it is going to be tomorrow. The people that benefit the most from a property or from an investment are the people that buy early. So you need to position yourself and tell yourself that, look, timing is an advantage. If you make this decision today, you'll be better off than somebody that is thinking about it, or somebody that decides. Mr. Ralph, can you switch off your mic, please? Mr. Mike, can you switch off your mic, please? Thank you so much. So position timing as an advantage, right? Position timing as an advantage. Now, the third way to create urgency is to show that others are taking action, right? Most people are sheep. If they see that other people are doing something, they feel they need to go in that direction. So you can sell you can sell exclusivity. You can sell the idea that somebody is missing out on something. That's why, for example, testimonials go a long way. I've been able to close a few deals just by posting testimonials. And as Dr. Shala always say, look, show that other people are buying this thing. It will make somebody that is about to make that decision even faster. Once people can see that other people are going a particular direction, it just gives the impression of legitimacy. 10,000 people are bought. Let me join them. It means that 10,000 people cannot be stupid now. They cannot be making a bad decision. So let me join the bandwagon. So what you can actually do to create a sense of urgency is to show your potential clients that other people are buying. Post receipts, post people doing allocation, post people going on inspection. These things are very, very important, right? Show that others are taking action. It can prompt somebody that is in a moment of doubt, or someone that is indecisive. It can prompt them to also make that decision. Now, the fourth thing is to highlight the cost of waiting. It is also the concept is also similar to timing, right? Tell them that delay usually means that they are going to pay more. So if somebody is saying that, I want to wait until the project is completed, of course, there's nothing you can do if that is the decision that they want to make. But it's your job as a salesperson to communicate to them that, look, if you wait, you are going to pay more. If you wait, it's going to be more expensive. And my job as a salesperson is to ensure that you get the highest value for your money. So I'm doing you a disservice if I don't prompt you to make that payment today, because I know within me that in about 2 months, this project that's 5 million naira, it will probably be about 6.5 million naira. So how does it make sense for you to wait? Why not make that initial deposit today and spread your payment for 6 months? Why not make that initial deposit today and spread your payment for 12 months? So your job is to highlight the cost of waiting. Look, projects in this axis, they increase about 40%, 50% every 6 months. Waiting is very, very dangerous. Make that initial deposit and move on with your life. Make that initial deposit and spread your payments in a time frame that will be convenient for you. So highlight the cost of waiting. Highlight the cost of waiting. Now, the fifth point is to stay calm and confident, right? And urgency actually works when you are not desperate. Now, the truth is that people can actually see through you. They can see through when a salesperson is trying to force them to make a decision. And the reason why we feel the need to force people sometimes can be twofold. Number one, the first reason is because most times we're not thinking about the clients, we are thinking about ourselves, right? And we're thinking about, how much commission we are going to get. We're thinking about how we're going to spend the commission. We're thinking about sales targets. And that's actually why we feel the need to rush clients into making a decision. But the truth is that it doesn't work. If you try and force somebody to make a decision, you often get the opposite of the reaction you're supposed to get. People don't want to be pushed around. People don't want to be shoved around. You need to understand that you have to stay calm and confident. Urgency does not work when you are being desperate. Desperation is different from sending reminders. Like most times, there's no reason why you should be messaging a client 5 times a day when they've not responded to any messages that you've sent. So the first reason I said why people feel the need to pressure clients is because we are thinking about ourselves. We're not thinking about the clients. We're thinking about the money we're going to get. We're thinking about the sales target that we want to hit. We're thinking about how we can better our own life by engaging in that transaction. We are not thinking about the clients. Now, the second reason is that you understand that there's no need to be desperate if you actually understand the value in what you do. So the truth is that us as salespeople, we shortchange ourselves and we short sell ourselves because we think that in the transaction process, the buyer is more important than us, which is actually not true. If you're a salesperson, understand that there's an exchange of money for value, right? In exchange for whatever payment they're making, they're actually getting proper value. So if you can understand the concept that, look, what I actually do is valuable. My job is to help people create wealth. My job is to help people get a better future. My job is to help people protect themselves in the future. My job is to help people provide for their families. My job is to help people gain financial stability and financial freedom. It is much, much easier that way. When you see yourself as somebody of value, it reduces the need to chase. It reduces the need to be desperate. And we also need to have like an abundance mindset as salespeople. Understand that there are so many people in the world. If somebody doesn't buy from you, it's fine. Somebody else is going to buy from you. As long as you can keep telling yourself that, look, there's somebody else out there I can talk to about my product. There's somebody else I'm going to give value to. There's somebody else I'm going to add value to their lives by engaging in this project or by investing in this property. You don't feel the need to chase people again. So understand that you can create urgency, but you don't have to do it with pressure. Be calm and confident. Understand the value in what you do. You understand? So creating urgency is very, very important. I'll be going over the bullet points that, I used to explain those things before. I said the first thing is to tie urgency to real factors. The second thing is to position timing as an advantage. The third thing is to show that others are taking action. The fourth thing is to highlight the cost of waiting. And the last one is to stay calm and confident. Now, the next thing we're talking about today is post-client follow-up, right? The post-client follow-up. So after the inspection, how do you actually follow up? About 3 or 4 weeks, I think I had a class on how to properly follow up a client. But very quickly, I'm going to be going over how to actually follow a client up properly. Now, the first thing is to follow up within the first 24 hours, right? So you are going to follow up within the first 24 hours because at that moment, the interest is highest. So if you take a client to inspection today, ensure that, of course, when they get home, you send them I hope you got home message. Then the next day, cannot follow up with how they intend to go ahead, depending on the conversation that you guys had on the site, right? So understand that following up should happen between the first 24 hours because that's the time where the interest is highest. It's just that for most of us that run ads, for most of us that use digital marketing, response time is also very important. If somebody indicates interest in a property, it is your job to follow up as quickly as possible. And I learned this concept from one of my mentors that I follow online. His name is Alex Hermosi. Most of you might actually know him. He's like a fitness coach. He's a serial entrepreneur and he's a super successful salesperson. He drops a lot of tips about real estate sales and how to, properly do things in the sales space. So he says that, look, you can actually increase your sales output by about 250 or 300% if you follow up 2 or 3 minutes after a client indicates interest. So let's say you run a Google ad or you run an Instagram ad or you run a Facebook ad and a client shows interest. It is your job to reach out in another 3 minutes or less. In fact, 90 seconds is even the ideal time because that's when the interest is highest. People have a very short attention span. They might want to make a decision right now, but if you don't capitalize on that interest window, you might not get the sale done. You might not get the best out of them. So understand that follow-up is very important, and following up quickly is even more important than just following up. So understand the time frame in which you should be following up and ensure that you follow up as quickly as possible. Now, the second thing is to reference the inspection. So when you are following up, you need to be making reference to the inspection that you had earlier. Oh, sir, yesterday when we went for the inspection, you said that you're impressed with the level of work. You said you're going to make a deposit today. You said that, the development is exactly everything that you said. So make reference to the inspection, right? Make reference to the things that they said were positive about the inspection. So you need to understand that in doing this, you are trying to remind the client of the conversations you guys had yesterday and nudging them in the direction that you want them to go in. So it is important to reference the inspection that you had with the client prior to your follow-up. Now, the third thing is to use updates to maintain urgency. Use updates to maintain urgency. Personally, something I've been trying my best to do as often as possible, with most of our, our projects, especially Oli Modern Market. I ensure that every single week I have something new to tell my clients. And thankfully, the company is doing such a good job, with the project. If you've been going there, you'd see that if you spend like 8 or 9 days before going to the project, you see that there's already a lot of work that's been done. There's so much, the progress is real. Like, you don't have to convince somebody that this place is under construction. 7 out of 10 times that you go to that project, you see that work is being done, right? So ensure that you be giving them updates about the project. I'm saying that, look, between yesterday and today, in fact, we've done this. Between yesterday and the 3 weeks that you came for inspection, you've done it. So use updates to create a sense of urgency. Now, the fourth thing is to stay confident and helpful, right? Stay confident and helpful. Your job is to guide the client. Your job is not to beg. So as I always say, your job as a salesperson is to help people. Once you understand that that's the primary function of what you do, it makes everything else easier. It makes giving people information easier. It makes suggesting properties to people easier. It makes suggesting payment plan to people easier, because your job is to help. But you cannot help somebody that you don't know. That's why the job of a salesperson is to ask questions, know the pain points, know exactly what the problem is, so that you can solve the problem, right? So stay confident and helpful. You need to guide the client into making a decision. Your job is not to beg clients. I see people asking questions like, oh, I followed with this client about 4 times today. He has not responded to my messages. Why are you sending the 5th message? There's no need for that. They saw the 4 messages that you sent earlier. A 5th one is not going to change their mind. So your job is to understand the value in what you do, to guide them. Your job is not to beg them. Understand that it is a value exchange, right? They are paying money in return for the value that you are giving them, right? So your job is not to beg anybody to make any decision. Your job is to guide them, right, in the direction that you want them to go in. Now, another way to properly follow up is to be consistent and not be annoying, right? And the point is, there's a way that you can follow up so often and so aggressively that you become a pest. So your job as a salesperson is to, be consistent, to not be annoying. You need to have a scheduled time where you send reminders. For example, I send a reminder once every 3 days or once every 4 days. You cannot be sending a reminder every single day. It is not necessary. So your job is to, be consistent. Your job is not to be annoying, right? So most agents, they stop too early. They send reminders to clients after like 1 or 2 weeks, and they are not able to make that decision. So they give up. So your job as a salesperson is not to give up. Your job as a salesperson is not to give up. Your job as a salesperson is to give the clients reminders over and over again until they can reach that buying decision. In fact, late last year, I was able to do a deal with a client, and it was because I was sending constant reminders. I think I shared that scenario in one of the classes that we've had here. And I said, look, this person, we started our conversations in about November, and he was very clear about his standpoint. He said, look, I am not going to buy. And I took that as a personal challenge. I said, look, if you're not going to buy, that's 100% fine. What I'm going to do is that every single time I go to site, I'll send you a reminder. And I told myself that whether this man responds to me or not is none of my business. My job is to do everything I can do from my own end and leave everything else in the hands of the client. So anytime I went to Oli Modern Market, I made a video and I sent to him. Sometimes I'll do like a talking face selfie. Sometimes I'll just show videos of the site. Good afternoon, Mr. Adedamola. Yesterday I went to site, and this is the level of work. Yesterday I went to site. This is what we've done. Yesterday I went to site, and this is the level of progress. In fact, yesterday I went to site. This is exactly what was going on. Every single week, without responses, he was not responding to anything. I just used to notice that sometimes he'll watch the videos, sometimes he'll not watch them. And one day I was even asleep. He called me and said, look, you know what? This shop space, I think I want to buy one now, because I feel like you guys are actually serious about what you're doing. I can see the level of progress. I can see the level of work. And we're having a conversation about standard before, and he ended up buying platinum, right? It just shows that if you constantly follow up without being annoying, without expecting anything in return, it can do magic for you. And the truth about selling and sales is that sometimes we have to be outcome independent. To be outcome independent means that you're not worried about what the outcome is. You're just giving your own energy and doing your job. The reciprocation of that energy from the client, whether it comes or not, you don't care, right? For example, yesterday night I was talking to somebody else. She's a salesperson for Landnest, and we're having a conversation for about 45 minutes or 1 hour. She's probably on this call right now, and she was trying to where I was trying to tell her how she could go about making these phone calls. And I told her that, look, your job as a salesperson is to give out a certain type of energy to your clients. And whether the energy is reciprocated or not, you don't have to worry about it. Just ensure that you are putting the client on a certain frequency where they can meet you at. If they decide not to meet you on that frequency, fine. Just ensure that you on your own end, you are doing your own job. So when you reach out to somebody and you send a follow-up and they ghost you, they don't respond, your job is not to be offended. Your job is to ensure that the 3 or 4 days that you give yourself to follow up in, that you actually follow up in that time frame again. So if your follow-up time is once every week, twice every week, whether you get a response or not is irrelevant, right? Ensure that you do the follow-up, regardless of whether the follow-up is looking like it's positive or not. Most people need time to make a buying decision, right? And it is your job as a salesperson to give yourself a fighting chance by giving as many periodic updates as possible. As I said earlier, your job is not to be annoying. Your job is to be consistent. So have like a time frame. Follow up is not something you do every day. It could be once every 3 days. It could be once every 4 days. But ensure you follow up as consistently as possible without being annoying. Now, the last thing is to be direct and specific, right? So be direct and specific. When you're following up, you need to know exactly, you need to have an objective for following up. Are you following up because you want to share updates? Are you following up because you want to get payment, right? As Dr. Shola always say, look, when you've given enough value, don't be shy to ask for your money. Don't be shy to close the deal. Don't be shy to make the sale. I've heard people say that, at the point when I want to ask for money, where I want them to make payments, I don't know how to go about it. No, right? When you are sure that you've done everything possible within the confines of your knowledge and your intelligence to give the client enough value, don't be shy. Ask for the money. Go for the kill. So be direct and be specific. Know exactly why you're following up. I'm sure sometimes you want to follow up. How is your day? How are you doing? I'm just calling to check in. If that's the purpose of following up, do that and then leave. Don't beat around the bush in people's DMs. Are you following up to give updates? Are you following up to close a deal? Are you following up to just check on them? Following up should have an objective. Be very direct and be very, very specific. Now, the last thing is documentation flow, right? Documentation flow, right? You need to simplify everything. You need to simplify everything. Now, if a client wants to make a buying decision, your job is to make that buying decision as comfortable as possible. And one way is by giving them information about the project. And the second way is to make that process as comfortable as possible. So it doesn't cost you much as a salesperson to book a cab, pick a client's document up from the office and drop it to them in their houses, right? I've seen people that once they close the deal, they don't care about the client again. People who close deals with clients, they will not show up for allocations. People who close deals with clients, they'll ask the client to, go and pick up the documents by yourself. I mean, of course, they can do that, but if you are going to make a client's life easier by picking up a document, taking a cab to where it's convenient for them and dropping the document off, it does magic for you. Your job as a salesperson does not end with collecting commission. It is a lifelong process, right? So, and the truth is that as a salesperson, you need to see that, look, my job is to help somebody. My job is to make a friend. Your job is not just to get commission and just forget about it, right? So ensure that you simplify everything. Let everything be as simple as possible. Now, you also need to explain everything clearly, right? Explain everything clearly. Sir, when you buy this project, the first thing you're going to get is a receipt. Now, at Landnest Homes and Properties, we're very efficient with receipts. In less than 24 to 48 hours, 48 hours at maximum, you get your receipt. Now, outside that, we'll also send you a contract of sale, even before you are done with your payment. Now, this contract of sale is so that you can see the contract between us and you. So before you're done with your payment, you can familiarize yourself with what this contract is about. You can familiarize yourself with what you want to do on this project, what your responsibilities are, and what the responsibilities of the company is. So everything is transparent, right? So the contract of sale is sent to you even before you're done with your payment. So you can share with your lawyers, share with your family members, also read through to understand, the exactly what the company is going to do. Now, when you are done with your payment, we'll give you your survey, and we'll also give you your allocation letter. So simplify the process. Let them know exactly what the process is like. Let them know at what point documentation is going to come in. Most of us, we have clients and we say that, oh, this man called me today and said that, oh, when is he getting his deed of assignment? When is he getting his survey? It's because he did not properly communicate. If you let people know that this is how the process is, when you make a payment, the first thing you get is your receipt within 48 hours. After that, we send you the contract of sale. These are the documents you get upon payment. These are the documents you get upon completion of payment. So be as transparent as possible. So understand that you need to simplify everything and explain clearly the receipts, the survey, the deed of assignment, the allocation letter. At what point am I going to get all these documents, right? Explain it as much as you can. Now, the last thing is to give timelines upfront. It also is similar to what I just said earlier, right? You need a time frame. And real estate in Lagos, Nigeria, in fact, Nigeria generally is like a low trust environment. So most people are not very trusting. So I've had the clients that paid and was like, oh, when am I getting my deed of assignment? When am I getting my survey? I'm like, you cannot get a survey upon payment. You get it upon completion of your payment. So understand that you need to help people manage their anxiety. People are already scared. People are already suspicious. Somebody already has a friend that bought a property or a project somewhere and got scammed. Somebody has a father somewhere that bought a project that the government took from them. So people are anxious about making a buying decision, especially in real estate. Because real estate is not a physical product where you can buy it and take it home. The property of the project is there 10, 15 years, 20 years for the rest of the duration of that project. If our properties outlive people, meaning that a property is going to stay here, if you buy a property today, to stay here longer than you stay on the earth. So it means that people are anxious about projects, anxious about investing. They cannot physically take the project from where it is to their houses. So they need to be sure. You need to help people manage anxiety by giving them time frames. Good afternoon, sir. If you make a payment today, I can assure you that before Wednesday noon, you've got your receipt. Outside of that, I'll speak to the customer experience team and ask when your contract will still be sent to your mail. Okay, I spoke to them yesterday to be ready on Friday. When you're done with the payment, this is when you get your survey. During allocation, I can 100% guarantee you that you get your deed of assignment and your survey. This is how you manage people's anxiety. It also increases your credibility, because if you say something is going to happen and it happens within that time frame, then they now trust you more. It builds your own integrity. So give timelines upfront so that you can manage anxiety. Don't complain when your client complains, especially when you do not give them a time frame when things are going to be done. Be very clear and transparent about how things are going to be done and the time frame attached to when these things are going to be done. So with that, we reached the end of our class today. I'm just going to do like a quick recap on the things we spoke about for people that joined the class late. So we're talking about how to take the process from inspections to allocations and how to properly manage the process. So the first thing I spoke about was setting the tone for inspections, right? So an inspection doesn't start when it starts. You need to have conversations, existing conversations with the clients, so that when they come for inspections, you guys can follow up, right, from the conversations you guys had prior to that time. I spoke about inspection, about what to do during inspection. I spoke about, you should guide clients and don't show them, sell the future and not the present, make it make financial sense, engage with questions, handle objections immediately, and then get small agreements. I also went on to talk about creating urgency without pressure. And I spoke to us about tying urgency to real factors, about positioning timing as an advantage, about showing that others are taking action, about highlighting the cost of waiting, and about staying calm and confident. I also went ahead to talk about post-client follow-ups. I told us that we need to follow up within 24 hours. We need to be direct and specific. We need to reference the inspection. We need to use updates to manage, to maintain urgency. We need to be consistent and not be annoying. And we need to stay confident and helpful. I also rounded up with the documentation flow about how to simplify everything, make the process as simple as possible. The second thing I said is to explain clearly, when are they going to get their receipts? When are they going to get their contract of sale? When are they going to get their survey? When are they going to get their allocation letter and their evidence of physical allocation? You need to explain everything as clearly as possible. Now, the last thing I said was to also give timelines upfront. Know exactly, communicate exactly when these things are going to be done, and so that the client is not confused about the time frame or about anything that is going to be done on the project and all that. So with that, we get to the end of the class, and I hope we've been able to get value today. I hope I've been able to, at least to a very large extent, communicate how to take in clients from just somebody that comes to inspect to somebody that actually keys into a project. So because of our time, I'm going to take just one question, right? So if there's anybody that has a question, now would be a very good time to ask. Just one question. It's already 7:29, and I'm sure that we want to probably get involved with the activities of the day. So very quickly, in under 1 minute, if anybody has a question, it would be nice to ask your questions now. But if not, we might just call it a day. So does anybody have a question? Is there anything that you're confused about as regards the class? Is there anything that you want to say to contribute? That would be a very, very good time. So in next 45 seconds or so. Okay. All right, sir. You may ask your question, sir.
Sorry, not to take much of your time, sir. Please,
No, it's fine. It's fine. Go ahead, please.
can you share the bullet points, sir, please? Because you were just giving rapid fire and it was a whole lot to take in. I couldn't even really type much, but I tried.
Okay.
We really
Okay.
appreciate it.
Okay. Okay,
Thank you.
that'll be fine. Okay, what I'll do is that I'll share the bullet points to the group, and then you can just take it from there. All right then. So let's have a very great Monday, and let's. Okay, somebody else is raising their hand. Okay, can you ask your question, Miriam? Can you very quickly ask your question?
Okay, good morning, sir. Thank you for
Good
the class.
morning.
Okay, and the question I want to
You're
ask
welcome.
is, like you mentioned that if a client shows interest in an ad, you should follow up like immediately in less than 3 minutes or so. So the question I want to ask is so that it doesn't seem as if you are disturbing the client. Let's say you want to call the client or something. Actually, you call the client within that period and the client is not like picking up. When is the appropriate time to return a call that it doesn't seem disturbing and it doesn't seem too far from when the
Okay.
client has showed interest?
Okay, that's a very smart question. So the process I use is a little different. So what I do is that when somebody engages with an ad, usually the message comes into your funnel, probably via Instagram or Facebook or WhatsApp, depending on the platform that you use. So when the message comes in, the first thing you need to do is to lead with like an introductory message and a follow-up message. So I'll send the format of that message to the group, just in case you're on the group, you can see the message from. So the message actually entails three things. Number one, you introduce yourself. Number one, you tell them why you are reaching out, and number two, you schedule a time for a call. So it's not just about seeing their contact and calling them immediately you see the ad. You cannot really infiltrate people's lives like that. Some people might be busy, they might be occupied, and some people don't like phone calls generally. Some people even schedule the time when they want you to call them. So what you want to do is that when I say reach out, I don't mean it doesn't have to be a phone call. When I say reach out within 3 minutes, I'm not saying pick up the phone and call them within 3 minutes. What I'm trying to communicate is that ensure that that first contact is within the first 90 seconds of the first 3 minutes. So send a message first, introduce yourself, tell them why you are reaching out, and tell them what time will be convenient for a call. If they're online, they'll reply the messages. If they don't reply the messages, in about 5 or 10 minutes, you can now follow up with a phone call. But the first thing to do is to send a message first, asking when you can call. If they don't respond to that message for whatever reason, you can now call later on. But when I say engage, I don't mean pick up the phone and call them immediately you see a response from them. For example, if the time is 10 p.m. in the night, you cannot call somebody at 10 p.m. or 12 a.m. What if the lead comes in at 2 in the morning? You cannot be calling somebody at 2 a.m. in the morning. So my point is that once they engage on whatever platform, Instagram, Google Ads, if they come into your funnel via WhatsApp, your job is to reach out as quickly as possible, preferably within 90 seconds or 3 minutes. Once you do that follow up, After that follow-up, in the follow-up message, you now tell them that, okay, what time is comfortable for a call? As I said earlier, I'm going to be sharing, right, the follow-up message that I use personally to engage clients. And I'm not saying that you should copy it who client sync. I'm saying that, look, this is a format that you can actually use. You can edit it to your own taste and just do what suits you best. But I'll send the follow-up message to you on WhatsApp, then sorry, on the group, and then you can now pick it up from there and just play around it and just see the format that suits you best. I hope that makes sense, Miriam.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. So, with that, we come to the end of the class. I hope we have a very productive morning and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, then.